All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be talking about the rumored game modes that are said to be coming for XDefiant in the near future. So now, always with every other rumor, you want to take this with a grain of salt because nothing's been officially confirmed yet. However, I am willing to say that so far, the rumors that I've at least seen in the past that actually have come to fruition again just goes to show that there's a lot of consistency here, and it's not just one person. It's actually a bunch of people that have confirmed some of these rumors that we have been aware of the past, in terms of like some of the videos I've made talking about season 2 and season 3 before season 2 came out. So, and this list of upcoming game modes seems very interesting. And as you guys know, whenever we get a little bit of information of upcoming game modes, it may give a little bit of information of other things that could potentially and possibly come into the game. So let's go right into it from top to bottom. All right, so the first one is 1v1. So the fact that you're going to have an official 1v1 thing is great. Obviously, in World War II, when you look at COD World War II, this was a thing. But I think this is a really cool game mode. But with that being said, we're going to see how that plays out. Now, the one thing that I noticed with this is that it's obviously going to take place in either small modes, like let's say Arena or Rockefeller. But I wouldn't be surprised if they actually had specific maps or a specific map that is going to be specifically catered towards 1v1, because even for maps like Rockefeller and Arena, for just a 1v1, I still think that those maps are a little too big for 1v1, because even though they're small for 6v6, 6v6 still flows very well. You know, you don't want to have like one of those hide and seek type of things going on with 1v1. So my speculation is that there's going to be maps or a map specifically catered towards 1v1, kind of similar how it was in Call of Duty World War II, where it was a best of 3, but I think it's going to be a little bit different than the best of 3 like it was in World War II. All right, let's move on. The next one is going to be called Team Knockout. Now, I'm not entirely sure what this is, but to me, this basically says a limited amount of lives, and basically whichever team runs out of lives first loses, the other one wins. That's my speculation. Reminding me of that Black Ops 4 game mode that worked really well with that game, and I can't think of it at the moment, but you guys know which one I'm talking about. So I'm pretty sure in the comment section you guys will remind me. Next up is Free For All. This one has been rumored for quite a while, and it's quite exciting because it is one of my 3 favorite game modes, period. I'm a team deathmatch guy. I'm a free for all guy. I am a hot shot guy, so to speak, right? So I'm not going to use the words kill confirmed anymore because I really just don't play COD anymore. I haven't for 3 years. So those are pretty much my game modes. And again, I have to be in the mood for any point of given game mode, but for free for all, I am almost always in the mood for free for all because I don't have to rely on teammates. All right, next up, 4 rounds. Now, I don't know what this is. Obviously, 4 rounds to me, it doesn't sound like 4 rounds in the chamber, but I would say 4 rounds as in like, again, it's going to be a round-based game mode that is limited to 4, but there's got to be something specific there in there, because you can't just take, like, let's say bomb, right, which is a 6 round mode, and then all of a sudden, well, technically speaking, it's 12 rounds because you're changing sides, but you can't just take a mode and just be like, hey, yeah, instead of 6 rounds or 12 rounds, we're going to make it down to 4 or 8 or something like that. There's got to be some other sort of twist to it. So that's going to be interesting, but it's going to be another round-based game mode, which a lot of people like round-based game modes, and that's one of the reasons why Bomb, aka Search and Destroy, is as popular within the community as it is, both in and out of competitive. Next up, we've already talked about this one. This is SMGs versus LMGs. Obviously, the SMGs are going to be running like crazy, and then the LMGs not as fast, but at the same time, they're very distant. So very interesting to have a mode to where it's like you've got distant weapon versus up close weapon. I think that's going to be very, very interesting to see how that plays out. But all right, let's keep going. Now, this is something that Call of Duty fans specifically, or arcade first-person shooters fans, have been wanting since before the original Modern Warfare 3, and that is a clip-worthy snipers only. Okay, so it says clip-worthy snipers only, so basically snipers are getting their own playlist. Now, even though this has no appeal to me whatsoever, I am excited for the sniper community because, well, it's nice to actually have a game mode just dedicated to snipers, right? This is something that should have happened much sooner. Even when you look at the side of Call of Duty, I think they ended up doing a snipers only game mode for at some specific point, but again, it's not something that's very common, and it didn't stick for long, at least. Again, I haven't played modern Call of Duty in 3 years, so you guys can correct me on that for those of you guys that are playing COD, but it's always nice to see that the sniper community is going to have a game mode specifically dedicated dedicated just towards them. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was a specific map for it as well, but there's plenty of maps in this game that can do very well for snipers. So, all right, now the next one is called Ringleader Variant. So, in my mind, I can't help but think of Regicide from Halo 4. So basically, if you were the top scorer on the team, you were the king, and in return, you would show up on the map. However, you would have more speed, and I think you'd even have a little bit more stopping power in your weapon, if memory serves correctly. And then basically the way to take you down is for somebody to outscore you. So, and then they would become the king, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a give and take, when it comes to being the king. So again, Ringleader Variant, again, this is what I think it is, but I could be very wrong. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next one, again, we've talked about previously in another video. This one's called Heroes and Villains. So obviously, this is going to be like good guys versus bad guys. My interpretation of this is that there's going to be very specific type of skins. I mean, like there's certain... I don't know, it's either going to be, again, you can't just take a game mode like, let's say, a team deathmatch or whatever game mode you enjoy and just have like specific factions versus specific other factions, because that to me is actually limiting and less fun, as opposed to just giving the player to use whatever the faction they please. So I think there's going to be a very big twist to this, to where it will make it a lot more appealing. All right, next up. This one's called Upload. Now, immediately my mind goes to Uplink. Like, if XDefiant has its own version of Uplink and call it Upload, it makes sense to me. I remember some people in the comment section, I remember reading something in the comment section about how somebody said that Uplink would work very well in this game, and this could very well be that. All right, next one, Infection. I really don't need to say more. I think everybody and their mother knows what Infection is. All right, next up, Team Elimination. Now, in my mind, immediately it went to Team Defender, but at the same time, it's like Team Elimination. Like, again, I'm not necessarily suggesting that this is like, again, this is called Team Elimination, so I'm guessing it's going to be a variant of Team Knockout, which was like the second one on the list that we covered here. So again, this also could be very well round-based game mode. This could be different from Team Knockout. It could be, there could be very different rules that take place that make a difference in the game. So Team Elimination and Team Knockout, I think, are going to be slightly related, but yet different at the same time. All right, Scavenger. I'm assuming there's going to have to be stuff that I'm assuming this will kind of be like maybe Search and Rescue. You guys remember Search and Destroy, to where in Call of Duty Ghosts they had something to where, okay, not only did you have to kill the other person, but you had to pick up their tags in order for them to be eliminated. I think Scavenger might be something like that, but at the same time it could be completely different. I'm not sure. All right, next up, it's called Supply Run. Immediately when I saw this, the first thing I thought of was supply drops. So I'm sure that's not the thing. However, it's gonna be very interesting to see what what Supply Run is, and I can't wait for you guys to give me some feedback in the comment section in terms of what you think these things are, or ideas, because again, this is again, everything you guys say in the comments is also feedback for the devs, and I know that there's at least one dev that watches my stuff. So again, all right, let's move on. More 24/7 playlists, so that's good. Obviously, there's going to be new maps, so of course I'm going to have more 24/7 playlists. Next up, One in the Chamber. This is a party game that has been highly requested and is very famous in other games, specifically Call of Duty, obviously. Juggernaut. This kind of makes me think of Regicide, which I described earlier, but it could be this one instead, to where one person is a Juggernaut. I remember there was one, even in Halo, they had like a Juggernaut game mode or something like that, to where like this one person specifically just had a ton more shields and more ammo and stuff like that. They were harder to take down, but at the same time, they were worth so much. So a lot of people were incentivized to go after the Juggernaut, despite the fact that they were at a disadvantage. So it encouraged teamwork to a certain extent. So, all right, next up is Hybrid. The first thing that came into my mind was like maybe you randomly change guns, and I don't necessarily mean per kill. I mean by time. You're probably changing guns and factions like within a certain period of time. Like can you imagine like every 10 seconds you change into a random gun and then a random faction to go with it? This could be a thing, but I'm not entirely sure. Now the next one really caught my eye, and this one is called Attrition. So the only form of attrition that I remember obviously is from Titanfall. Now Titanfall, I really liked Attrition in Titanfall, because not only were you shooting fellow pilots or players or whatnot that were also in their Titans, but you're also dealing with bots as well, that it gave you extra points. Now these points that the bots had were not as much as real players. However, action was top notch. You were always shooting shit up, and you were just accumulating points, and it was all about which team had the most points at the end of the day. So attrition to me, like again, if you take the Titans out of it and you just have your factions and your gun on gun, I think this would appeal to me more than it did in Titanfall, because in Titanfall I didn't always like using the Titans. I really enjoyed the pilot gameplay. So I said to myself, man, it would be pretty badass if they had like a pilots only attrition. So this would kind of be like a dream come true if it is what I think it is. All right, next up, we have another one called Scramble. No idea what that is. Maybe you guys can give me some insight on that. Next one is called All Mid, All Random. Again, All Mid, All Random. It could be what I was talking about earlier in terms of what I thought hybrid was, but this could be it instead. Next up, Pony. I don't know, maybe I don't know what Pony would be, but it sounds funny as heck. Next up, King of the Hill. King of the Hill is very much like Hardpoint, but at the same time I guess there's some differences, so it's gonna be very interesting to see what they do with King of the Hill. They'll probably do like random, or they'll probably just have 1 point or something like that on the map to where it's like this is the hill and gonna stay there for the entire match. I'm not sure. It's got to be different. It's got to have its own take on it, because King of the Hill and Hardpoint are very similar. All right, next up, it says Duel of Payload. No idea what that is. Next up, Assault. We have had Assault in other game modes as well, including Halo, which is basically a different variation of a bomb mode, so that's going to be very interesting to see. Next up is Tilt. Now, I've mentioned a game like this, a game mode like this, and basically Tilt, I think, is going to be to where there's going to be one, let's say there's a bar, right? Think of a fighting game, right? There's like a bar that goes up to the top of the screen. Instead of 2 smaller ones, there's like gonna be one that goes across, right? So the more kills, the faster you get, you fill up the bar faster in your favor. But then all of a sudden, if you're not getting kills, the bar is gonna tilt in the other direction. So I think what's gonna happen is like you're gonna have to get like a certain amount of kills within a certain amount of time in order to get as much juice flowing towards your side of the bar, so that way the weight tilts in your favor until it tilts all the way, and then you win. That's, if that makes sense at all in terms of how I described it. And then there's one more here, and it's called Dark Zone Drop. I think this is going to be similar to oh, it's on the tip of my tongue, but it's a drop game mode to where you know like a box gets dropped in a random point in the map, and you have to go there and get it, because what they have in there are a bunch of good stuff that you want to get that will give you an advantage in the game. That's what I think it's going to be, something of that nature. So if you ask me, all of these different game modes are pretty much going to be variations of game modes that we've seen in other games. And we're not just talking COD here, but we're also talking Halo, and we're also talking Titanfall, and perhaps something else as well after you guys give some feedback. But for the most part, this sounds pretty damn exciting, and it's going to be very interesting to see which one of these game modes that are obviously going to be on rotation are going to be very popular within the community. I think some modes are going to stand out more than others, but for the most part, I think it's going to be very interesting in terms of seeing how these play out. So I'm very interested to see how they play out. I'm very interested to see what they are, and just how different they are from the traditional, game modes that we've heard of before. So, but with that being said, guys, what do you guys think of these game modes? Do they sound good? Do they sound bad? Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. And as always, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.